How did you stay motivated during those times? There must have been days where you got very discouraged, and being self-taught is not an easy thing to do. So, what was the engine behind your motivation?
So, uh, well, music was always around me. I mean, I think I remember from 5, 6 when he used to rehearse with his band. I remember him giving me the trumpet. I was about 7, going on 8, and then he gave me the sax at about 14, 15, and it was always okay. Here's the instrument. Go and teach yourself. And the older I got, it was like, how do you want me to teach myself? It was very my childhood was very confusingly complicated because everybody thought that being Fela's son, I would be getting the best musical education. I probably say I had the best experience, but the formal education I lacked, and the only way I could make up for that was double my efforts everywhere, practicing, working as hard as possible. Most of my friends, I could say, probably all of them went to university. So it was a general talk in town that I would become a complete failure in life. I had no formal education. I had no musical formal education. And I remember my father's family having several meetings that you're going to ruin this boy's life. And my father would say, I know what I'm doing. And he will ask me, do you trust that I know what I'm doing? I'll say, yes, you know what you're I always supported him. And, but in my silent moments, I was like, wow, how am I going to do this? And so when I started playing in his band, I mean, he had a huge fan base, and everybody was, yeah, a great saxophonist. You're going to be the best saxophonist. I was smoking. I think I got carried away. In 1984, he was wrongfully jailed. So I moved. In 79, I ran away from because I used to stay with my mother. So I ran away from my mother's house and moved to my father's house. And this was what I wanted all my life, to move into Kalakuta. So the opportunity came. So I got there. Kalakuta was like a big party. So my mother was very angry. So when he got wrongfully jailed, I moved back to my mother. And my maternal grandmother was like, what kind of musician are you? You are the lousiest musician I've ever heard of. You don't practice. Your tone is horrible. And I was like, fella son, arrogant, how dare you speak to me like this? But that was the talking to that saved my life, I think. I cried that night and I was like, wow, how am I going to do this? I wept and wept all night. In the morning, I picked up my sax and I could hear her saying, I gave him a piece of my mind. She's very British. And I could hear her telling my mom, what I braved it. I picked up my sax and I vowed to always do a minimum of 6 hours practice. I brought out all my jazz records, Dizzy Gillespie, Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, Duke Ellington. I said to listen to some classical music, just listening to everything possible. The blues, started to watch movies on how the blues started, bebop, anything I could choose from. When I left my father, his fan base turned completely against me. And it was, how dare you fight Fela? But it wasn't a fight. It was, I was lost. I couldn't, I had no formal education. How was I going to become a great musician? How? I didn't know. I was lost. I was crying inside me 1,000 times, and people didn't understand it. They thought I was doing what I was doing because I was protesting. My father was seen as an activist. You don't dare fight somebody who is an activist. Everybody forgot it was my father. Everybody forgets I am I'm in this storm, and nobody wanted my point of view. And well, I just I just focused and just said, I can't turn back right now. I'd rather die. It's better I die trying than give up. So I just continued going, and I've never stopped since then.
At some point, did your father compliment you?
The first time he heard my first album in '89, he came to the launching and he was, this is rubbish. And he went on stage, said it to the press. I was so upset. Said, how dare you? How dare you say that? You are the last to even say that. I mean, I was very upset. I don't let me keep the rest of my viewpoint to myself. And then the next time he saw me, because in 1991, my father said stop having it. He used to play 4 times and he cut his gigs down. He cancelled. He used to play Tuesday ladies night, Fridays, Yappies night, Saturdays, comprehensive, and Sunday jump, which was a very traditional. He used to start in the afternoon and end early evening, about 9 or so in the evening. And so it comes to my maternal mother's, um, I can't remember if it was a 60th. And he comes and he says, "What are you doing now?" I said, "Well, we're looking for places to play and we don't have any." He said, "Okay, do you want to play at the shrine?" I said, "Yes." I think that date was 27th of September. It was the last Sunday of 1991 in September. I can't remember. I think it was 27th. I need to check that out. And so he says, "Okay, I will advertise it for you. I will tell all my fans to come and watch you. I'll be there." So we're all excited. My band, the Positive Force, we're all excited. And then he hadn't heard me since '89. And I had a very big hit, which was not recorded, called No Place for My Dream, and another track called Mind Your Own Business. And people, his fan base used to come and watch us rehearse. So they knew. And they were like, wow, he's matured, he's grown up. But my father didn't know. And I had a lot of, let's say, people that didn't like me in Kalakuta because um, for some reasons, maybe I'll talk about it one day, and they were telling him, "Oh, it's not good." So my father comes to the first Sunday job and we play this track, No Place, and he was like, not bad. And then we played, which was his favorite track before he died, Mind Your Own Business, which goes, ba-da-da-ba-ba, ba-ba-da-ba, and he got up and says, "What?" And my elder sister looked at him and he got up and started dancing. The whole place went wild. And he says, "You did this?" He was shocked. I think in the years, the transformation was, he says, "Come and see me tomorrow." So I go to see him and says, "Wow, you composed all that?" Wow, and it was, wow, yes. And I mean, and that never left my memory. And then he went to the press one day. He now went to the press and said, "Yes, everybody says I don't know what I'm doing. Is this not the boy you all said will be a failure? Have you heard him? Have you heard him? And you tell me I don't know what I'm doing." So technically, you could say he was right, probably.